Okay, so let's have a look at this type of question here. So effectively, you need to know how to draw, along with all the other graphs you need to be able to draw, like your cubic graph, your quadratic graphs, your 1 over x graph, your exponential graphs, your log graphs, okay? You also need to know how to draw these three graphs, the sine, the cos, and the tan graph, okay? If you remember when we went through that sheet, remember before Christmas I gave you a sheet which had like all of the different functions which you needed to know how to draw, okay? I skipped over the trigonometric graphs because I said we will meet that. We've met it now. Okay, so if you wanted to go back and fill in those graphs that you've got a complete set, there they are. Okay, so or you can go back and rewatch the videos because they're all online now. Okay, these are the types of questions which you need to know how to use the graphs to solve. Okay, so solve sine of some angle equals a half for 0 to 360 degrees. Okay, so you remember when we solved these types of questions before? Like, you may end up, when you're doing your right angle triangles, with a statement like this. You said sine of x equals 1/2. For example, if you had a triangle which looked like this. Okay, so that might be x, that might be 1, that might be 2. Okay, so you might have a triangle which looks like this, and you say, oh, okay, I solved this, and you end up with a statement that writes like this, sine of x equals 1/2. Okay, and before you end up with sine of x equals 1/2, and how would you find what x was? Yeah, good. You go shift sine of 1/2, or you might even know it. Either way, it comes back as 30 degrees, okay? And you're like, right, that's it, done, finished. And then move on to the next question. However, this is slightly different, right? Because it says you need to solve all of the angles, you need to find all of the angles for which sine of x equals 1/2 between 0 and 360 degrees. Yeah? We've seen with these graphs now that they continue beyond that 0 to 90 degrees range. Okay, or domain rather, right? So there are other values which also hold the value of 1/2, the sine value of 1/2, okay? So the question is, how do we find them? Okay, so we've got what's known as the base angle. In other words, the base angle is the angle which we find through the right angle triangle, or simply it's the angle which is closest to 0 degrees, okay? That's what your calculator will give you. The question is now, how do we find the other angles? Any ideas? Any ideas? Well, we first of all need a tool which will give us angles which are other than the angles between 0 and 90 degrees, don't we? That's what we've got over there, the graph. Okay, that's literally what the graph gives us. It's a tool for working out angles which are other than the 0 to 90 degrees range, domain. Yeah? So let's draw that graph. Okay? Now I know it's over on the right-hand side, but hopefully you get more practiced. Let me show you how I draw my graph. This will be x, this will be sine of x. So first we'll start by labelling your graph. Okay. Now I think, I know the shape, it's like this. Okay, I know the shape is like this, right? And I've got to think, where does it start from? So it's the sine graph. Where does it start from, 0 or 1? 0. So I start it at 0, and I go up, I go down, and I come back again. So I complete one full cycle. Okay. Then I go back and I think, what's the range? What's the maximum and the minimum value? Which, good. So it's 1 and -1, okay? And then I think, okay, where are my angles going? Well, obviously I start at 0. Then I just think 90 degrees later, something interesting happens. There's my peak, so that peak must occur 90 degrees later. Then it goes to the axis, that's another interesting point, and that must occur 90 degrees later, okay? Then I reach a trough, and that must occur 90 degrees later. Then finally I go through the axis, that must occur 90 degrees later. Happy with that? Happy with that? Okay, so just very, very quickly drawing the sine graph, and this will come with more practice. Okay, but you need to be able to do that yourself. All right, fine. So now what? Well, look, I know that one of the angles I'm interested in is 30 degrees. Okay, so what I'm literally asking here, this question is literally asking, where on the sine graph do I have a height of 1/2? Well, let's look. A half is going to be there. Happy with that? So a half is going to be there, okay? And then all I do, watch this, all I do is I just draw a line all the way across my graph, which has that same height. Does that make sense? Right, so just simply draw a line across, which has that same height there. And then I just find the intersection points. So have a look. You're happy it intersects the graph at that point there, okay? it also intersects the graph at that point there. So now it's just a case of working out what the angles are at each of those points. Now I know that the graph is symmetric between those 2 points there. Can you see that? It's a symmetric graph, okay? Do I know one of my angles? It's 30 degrees, okay? So I already know one of my angles is 30 degrees. You're happy it's got to be that one there. That's the one between 0 and 90. So that one's got to be 30 degrees. I've already got that by sticking it in my calculator. Yeah? Then it's just a case of working out what this one is over here, right? So have a think. I know from symmetry of the graph that from where it goes through the axis to the point which I'm interested in, that's got to be 30 degrees. Yeah, the distance from 0 to 30 has got to be 30. Well, have a look. This is where it also goes through the axis, and it's just 30. It's just got to be some distance back. That distance has got to be the same as that distance. In other words, if I go 30 degrees back from 180, where do I end up at? 150 degrees. Okay, and you're happy there's no other points which have a height of a half. Okay, so therefore, if I want to solve this equation for the domain between 0 and 360, I draw my graph for that domain, and then I just find all of the points which I'm interested in. And it's a fairly simple kind of intuitive process. Okay, so in other words, my final answer would be 30 degrees, that's one angle, but also there's another one which I couldn't get before by thinking about my right angle triangle, or just sticking it in my calculator, which is 150 degrees. Okay?
Sorry Alex, I wasn't following. How did you get the other angle?
Okay, so watch carefully because it's really important, right? So let me just get rid of that. I know that point there's 180. Okay? So have a think. I'm literally measuring the distance from somewhere else of interest. So I know that point there is 30 degrees. Okay? So have a look. If you look at the distance from where it goes through the axis to that point there, you with that? Yeah. Okay, that's got to be 30 degrees. From 0 to 30, that's got to be 30 degrees. So if I have a look, I'm after that point there, can I find another point of interest? Well, have a look. That point there is also where it goes through the axis. Yeah? So I know that that distance must be the same as that distance there. Do you see that? So because that's 30 degrees, that distance there has also got to be 30 degrees. Hence, if I go 30 degrees back from 180, I end up with 150. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. Equally, I could have done it the other way. I could have done it the other direction. So I could have said, well, hang on a minute. The distance from there to a peak, okay, is 60 degrees. You see that from 30 to 90, okay? In which case, that's my peak, that's my point. If I think about it, that distance has also got to be the same, okay? So 60 degrees on from 90 is also 150 degrees. Either way is fine. Either way is fine. Just think about the symmetry of the graph. That's why a graph is a really good way of doing things. So,
We have 2 more points, right?
Do we? So have a think. All I want is find me all of the points. The sine of x equals a half simply means find me all of the points which have a height of a half. There's my half. I draw my line across. Are you happy there's only 2 points which have a height of a half? These two are both negative, so we don't care about those.